So Wilma and Charlie, Charlie, I got a message from your mom earlier, and Wilma, you said you couldn't get that app. I did not do due diligence to make sure that that app was available on, and I sent it from the Play Store. And if you,
We just lost you.
Hello.
Yeah,
Can you guys hear us?
you must have,
oh, there we go. Are we all back?
not 100%. Nope.
All right, I'm going to leave the meeting and come back in. I turned on my Wi-Fi. It might have messed with things. Okay, can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, much better.
All right, good. So were you two able to get something that allowed you to do I Ching readings?
I finally, in total honesty, 10 minutes ago, got something to download.
Okay,
And now,
fair enough.
now I get it. I was clueless. Totally clueless about the hexagrams, and I didn't know where to look, and I didn't know, and I couldn't. And
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, I did get something to download.
And I don't.
Called, let me tell you what.
Well, that's great. So that can be a part of your week this week. Oh, the book changes. There you go.
Yeah.
So without knowing what app you have, one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to give you all instructions right now of if you don't want, if you know, and for some people using the technology is the opposite of what they want to achieve in a ritual to get centered in self, right? Whereas me, I consult the I Ching so regularly. It's such a part of my spiritual development that I don't care if I do it from the app. So I'm just going to give you quick instructions that y'all can write down while I give them to you as to how to create your own I Ching, how to get the readings yourself. There are several different methods, and I like this method the best. So what you'll do is, the first thing you'll do is find 16 pennies. You need 16 pennies. On 8 of the pennies, put a solid line on both sides, which represents yang, a solid line on both sides of the penny. On the other 8 pennies, put a broken line on both sides, representing the yin symbol. So you'll have 16 pennies, 8 that are yin and 8 that are yang. Then, on the yang pennies, take 3 of the 8 yangs and draw a circle someplace near the center of the penny on both sides. So now on 3 out of 8, you have a line with a circle. I'll give you, let me draw one real quick so you can see what it looks like. Okay. All right, so imagine there's your penny, okay? So then the first thing you're gonna do is do 8 of them with a solid yang line through it. And then in 3 out of the 8, draw another circle through that yang line. With the other 8 pennies, you'll put a broken line or a yin symbol on it. And then 1 out of the 8 yins, put a big X through it on both sides. So 3 yangs will have a circle, and only 1 yin will have an X. So those of you that have played with this a little bit are familiar. What will those circle in a yang or the X on a yin represent? What would your guess be?
What the X or the circle would represent?
Yep. If you guys have had a little bit of, like, through looking at this, I would guess K, you might have, because you've had a little more exposure to the gene keys. And if
Yeah.
you remember, on each of your gene keys, you have one what? You might be a line 5 or a line 4 or a line 3 or a line 2 or a line 1 or a line 6.
Mm-hmm.
And that refers to your changing line.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the deal. Yin is always, this is a cycle, right? Yin is always becoming yang, and yang is always becoming yin. So the yang with a circle in it represents a mature yang that is turning into yin. It represents a changing line. The one yin symbol with an X through it represents a changing yin. Now, why there's 3 changing yangs versus 1 changing yin, let's just take a quick look at the principles. Yang is an active principle. Yang is all about, let's choose and move, baby. Let's get in motion. Let's make stuff happen. So yang energy is more likely to bring about change. Whereas yin energy is tantamount to reeds in a giant field. And what happens when the wind blows? If the wind blows these flexible, yielding reeds, they don't break, right?
Right.
Yin is yielding. It's less likely to change. So there's only 1 changing yin out of 8, and there's 3 changing yangs out of 8. What you'll do after you have your 16 coins marked as I've given you instruction is find a little pouch to put them in, whatever you want to use. You just want a little pouch that you can reach your fingers into and pull a coin out. To do a consultation then with your 16 coins, you'll sit down and you'll come up with your question. Remember, no yes or no questions. It's questions such as, what if I were to choose this? Or what image right now will empower me to understand this? Or what will support me to achieve this right now? Then sit down with your little bag of coins, contemplate the question, put yourself in the energy of it, think about all of the ins and outs of it and what you've been considering and what's been going through your head, and just really consider it. And as you're considering it, I call this building the subjective space. You're allowing yourself to bring up the emotions and the thoughts of what you've been considering and how it's been feeling for you. And as you're evoking that, state the question the way you stated it. Let's say the question is, what if I go to my mom's this weekend? Let me make it more specific. How will my finances be effective if I choose to go to my mom's this weekend? Then I'm going to sit and be like, okay, gosh, if I go to my mom's this weekend, I know she could really use the company and I really want to spend time with her. I also know that I've got to make money though, and I'm behind in this and this, and I don't know if it's going to work out. I'm a little bit concerned about that, but gosh, I'm going to really regret it if I don't go visit my mom. What if I go, how will my finances be affected if I go visit my mom this weekend? And then I'll keep on thinking about it, repeat the question. What I'll do is I'll reach into the bag and pull out 1 coin. First coin I pull out has a solid yang line on it. So I'm going to write down on paper a solid yang line. Put that coin back in the pouch. Shake it up. Keep repeating the question. Stay in the subjective space. Pull out another coin. It's a yin. Mark down above the first yang line. I draw a yin line. So now I have a yang on the bottom, a yin above that. Put that back in. Pull out again. I pull out a changing yang. So now I have yang on the bottom, yin above that, and then a changing yang above that. Put it back in the bag. I'm going to do this 6 times, and each time putting whatever I draw out above the last one until I have 6. Now what I'll do is go to the Google or open a book if I happen to have a book, and there's a chart. On the left side of the chart, it'll have every combination of 3 yin or yang. So maybe here it'll say yang, 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 yin, yang, yin, yang, yin, yang, yang. Right, every combination. Along the top, it'll have yin, 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 the same things. And what you do is you match up what your lower hex trigram is, that combination of 3 lines, with the upper trigram. This will make more sense when you're doing it, but I'm going to walk you through it anyway. And that will give you your hexagram. It'll be like, oh, I look at these 3 lines compared to these 3 lines. That says it's 55. Then you can consult hexagram number 55 for your reading. And remember, we had that one changing line in number 3. So your specific advice will be that changing line. Now, what's powerful about that process is it gives you more of a ritual. It gives you something you can put your hands on and get yourself sunk in with, right? I have a lot of experience doing that, and it got to a point where sometimes, like I said, the ritual evokes the space. I had so much practice with that ritual that I didn't need to pull the coins anymore. I can sit down and just tap a button on an application and let it give me my lines. Make sense? And then I don't have to go consult a chart because the app just pulls it up. Any questions about that process to create your own way of getting your I Ching readings?
I do have a comment.
Please.
I downloaded the app and I had a question. My question was, why do I procrastinate? And it really gave me a very good answer. So
Yeah, walk us through it, Kay. This is perfect.
okay, I'm trying to think what number it was. I think it was 63. And of course, it's not. Let me see. I had it on my iPad. Let me see if I can. I don't know if it'd still be on there or not. Let me check. June. Let's see. No, it's not on there. I think it was 63 that came up, but basically what it said, just give me a minute. It said something to the effect of chaos and disorder turns into order and something else like simplicity. Sometimes all the details are worked out. But the basic message I got from it was, if you don't take care of business, things will decay.
Mm-hmm. 63 is the hexagram that refers to after completion. Already forded. You've made your way across the river, right? So if that was the number, then there might be something in there, though. You know, this would be, I think, a more valuable place to take it. Kay, how much was it a sense of a feeling that it just intuitively or poetically made sense and spoke to your question, versus how much did it intellectually, through reason and rational, speak to the question?
It emotionally affected me. And I think it was the word decay that hit me. And I did sit there and contemplate it for a minute, because it's true, it's true. And somebody did my gene keys, but she did it. There's a way you do your gene keys from your birth date, and then there's another gene keys before your birth date. I don't quite understand all that.
Okay.
Something about the stars, something about like when you're conceived versus when you were born.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit off. But basically, it said that like my purpose for this lifetime was to turn chaos into order.
You're like the lawgiver in the tarot, the Queen of Swords. Got it. So there's one thing that I want to extract out of this, Kay, is this sense, and Charlie and Wilma, you guys don't have the stable datum. You don't have the shared experience yet because you just didn't have, though you'll get that through this week. So let yourself be primed with this. There's something about the I Ching where it speaks to a person on a deeper level. In fact, if you turn to the I Ching when you are in your busy do mind and you're looking for a reasonable answer to a problem, it can often confound and confuse things more. Because the I Ching, as well as the tarot, is utilizing the language of the subconscious and the collective subconscious. Reason and logic are not in our subconscious. Creativity, emotions, and intuition are in our subconscious. So it tends to pull more to a vibrational field that poetically makes sense to people and gives them an answer that affects them on a level of being more than on a level of doing. It goes deeper than the do, all the way to the be. And then as we inhabit that new be space that the contemplation or the answer brings up, the right action follows that be, right? The be necessitates that the action will work. In fact, you can have the right action with the wrong be and it won't work. You can have the quote wrong action with the right be and it'll work 10 times more effectively. Wilma, have you experienced that?
You're in that space.
Because you're in the be space, right? So one thing to consider about divination is, in fact, Kay, I'll have you just, how many, did you get to do many other consultations? That sounded like it had a pretty big effect on you.
It
It really
did,
hit
and
the point
well,
home.
I sat and contemplated it, and an image came up to me of say like a garden, that when it's not taken care of, how it grows over, and I kind of applied that to my. I thought about my life and asked myself, is that what I wanted? You know, so it got me moving a little bit. Yeah, I thought it was wonderful, a wonderful advice.
Great. And again, you said, and hey, welcome, Roger. I'm glad you made it this week.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Sorry I'm late.
It's okay. You're not sorry. You're awesome. If you want, you get to look at what you made more important and then acknowledge for yourself if that was truly more important or if you want to adjust.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. You don't owe me an apology.
Okay.
Roger, what we were just discussing is Kay was telling us about her opportunity to dive into the I Ching this week and doing some consultations. And I was just driving the point home that the response doesn't necessarily right away click on a reason and logic level as much as it seems to click in this deeper, more profound, intuitive, poetic way. Like, oh my gosh, that is so the energy that I am exploring right now, right? Roger, did you get an opportunity to play with the I Ching this week?
I did not.
Okay, that's all right. So I just gave them instructions for how to create. So if you don't want to use an app to consult the I Ching, how you can make a little pouch with pennies. So when I send out the video tomorrow, Roger, you'll just want to watch the first 10 minutes of this recording that you missed, and it'll give you instructions on how to make your own little I Ching pouch. And that also helps you to build your emotional content and have more of a relationship with the I Ching.
Okay.
All right? One of the things that I wanted to get to this week, I was hoping that everybody would have the stable datum of having had an experience where they're like, whoa, my I Ching reading was eerily accurate. And yet it was accurate in a way that was so profound and so on point, yet not necessarily rationally related.
I heard what you just said a minute ago. So I already have made a note to sort of watch for deeper themes rather than some kind of point for point prediction or something.
Yeah, one of the things that's profound that has happened for me, that I predict will happen for all of you as you familiarize yourselves with archetypes more. Archetypes are like a base pattern, right? They're a base core energy pattern. The energy of the divine masculine versus the divine feminine, like what's yielding versus what's active, right? They're universal energies that show up all over the place. The energy of the fool, this energy, that energy. What happens is that as you grow in your relationship with interpreting and feeling the archetypes, your ability to recognize patterns will grow. Such that you'll be able to walk into a room and feel the subjective energy, and you'll be like, oh, I know what's going on in this room. There's lots of people in this room that are engaged in growth right now. Or, oh, I know what's going on. Somebody over there just broke up with their boyfriend. How do I know? I can feel that energy. I recognize the pattern, right? You'll be able to see people's behaviors and be like, you know what? I know what thought process and emotion tends to drive that behavior, right? So now I recognize the pattern. There's a person doing X, Y, or Z. And in my experience, quite often, that means that they're believing they're not worthy, or they don't have enough time, or they're powerful, or whatever that might be, right? So there's something awesome about learning to feel a subjective energy pattern and the many physical ways that can manifest. When we just use our eyes, it's like those of you who have coached in the game. And Kay, bear with me for just a moment. We've talked about this game, and I know you engage this work on a big level. So while we might have spoken about things in a context that, the words were out, this energy, I'm quite sure you have experience with. So have you noticed in your life a time, Kay, when they're saying something, and yet you can feel from them their beingness and the words just don't match the music? Have you experienced that before?
Yeah. There's a philosopher that said something to the effect, who you are speaks to me so loud I can't hear what you're saying.
I love that. I love that. I say that to people when I'm in the game. When people are coaching, they get a meta level of that. It's not, as you're playing the game, it's about watching and observing your own behaviors, your own thoughts, and changing your relationship with your own thoughts and beliefs. When you're coaching, it's about watching other people play and watching their behaviors and uncovering what do they believe. But then, just when you think you've figured out the players you're coaching, what they believe, we flip it on its head and say, okay, you think you're talking about your players, but you're actually talking about yourself. Yet there's something profound in that moment when all of a sudden we're able to see, oh, you know what? They're saying one thing, but I now have grown my self-awareness so big that I can see what's really, they even think they're doing what they're telling me they're doing. But what I know is there's a different thought process driving them. I can feel the pattern. I can feel that subjective energy. They think they're showing up like the lawmaker, but I can feel them demonstrating the energy of the fool, whatever. So that's one of the profound shifts that comes from this. With that stable datum, I'd hoped you would all have this experience of, oh my gosh, did it ever resonate on this deep, intuitive level? What I want to do right now is I would like to do an example I Ching reading. Of the three of you who didn't get as much of a chance to play with the I Ching yet, who would be willing to be a volunteer to bring a question to the table so we can walk through the process of doing it? Okay, Wilma, go ahead and just don't even worry about how you frame the question yet. Let me know what is the question, and we'll work together to frame it in a way that can be really profound, and then we'll do the consult.
Okay, it's what will happen if I approach my daughter-in-law regarding respect?
Got it. So now what we want to do is get the subjective energy spilling a little bit more. So the question is respect.
Oh.
Did I hear you correct?
Correct.
Okay. So now let's look at, is that the most profound question? Where do you feel you're being disrespected by your daughter-in-law, Wilma? what's going on. Just give us a little bit more of an idea of the situation.
Okay, I was in Kansas City over the weekend to my granddaughter's missionary blessing and party, and my daughter-in-law was, in my opinion, disrespectful to me, questioning my parental skills, questioning my ability to function as good today as I did when I was 4.
I want to make sure that I'm on the same page with you and that my memory serves me correctly. You have 2 boys and 1 girl.
Charlie,
Wilma,
yeah.
your kids.
Yes,
Charlie, and then another boy, and then Jennifer.
correct,
So it's Charlie's older brother's wife.
correct.
And she was questioning your parenting skills, etc.
Yes. Yeah.
Has this
That's what-
happened before? Is there a history of you feeling disrespected or not appreciated or?
Yes.
Okay. So the way you stated the question initially is, what will happen if I approach my daughter in a conversation about respect?
Right.
How would it be if we instead asked, what image best supports me? What image best supports Wilma? Let me see, what is your perfect end result here? More understanding her position, her more understanding your position, getting respect from her? What would really be the win in this?
I think the win would be for us each to understand each other's position.
Got it. So how would it be to start with a question around, now see how we're building the subjective energy? See how
Yeah.
the more you talk about the specifics of it, the more your emotions are going to come up of that fucking bitch. How dare she talk to me that way?
Exactly.
Right. So how would it, I can see 3 different directions to go with this. What if I engage her? Or what image best supports me to engage my daughter-in-law to create a relationship that works for us both?
That's much better. I
Does that
like
make
that
sense?
because, yeah, I like
Got
that.
it. So now, can everybody, since we're all observing this, all of our energy is going to be a part of it. If through what Wilma has said, it brought up someplace in your life where you think that you're not getting respect from somebody or you don't feel respected by somebody, go ahead and bring that up and let yourself get into that subjective energy. Yet simultaneously, be thinking what supports Wilma, right? What image supports Wilma with insights that empower her to create a relationship that works for her and her daughter? It doesn't matter if the words change just a little bit, as long as every time you come back to that question, it's back to what image supports Wilma with insight to create the relationship she most desires with her daughter-in-law, right? And then you, Roger and Charlie and Kay, can go into wherever you feel you're not getting the respect you want from somebody else, or you can just turn your attention back to Wilma. For you, Wilma, keep on going through what you've experienced, and then every once in a while, repeat the question. I'm going to go over to the app right now and do the reading. I've already discovered I can leave this app and it'll stay on and you guys can still hear me. Okay?
Okay, so I repeat the question.
Yeah, you can just do it silently to yourself. Continue to play in the energy of what you just experienced with your daughter-in-law, how long that's been going on, what you want to create. I mean, this is your son, and this is your oldest son, and he's an important part of your life, and you're not going anywhere. Mom's always going to be here. And who does this woman think she is? And you've done a lot of work, and you're willing to meet her halfway. And what is she thinking? And how have you ever gotten very far anyway? Disrespecting somebody? Is that the optimal strategy? But I tell you what, I just want to be a part of my daughter-in-law and son's life, and I deserve to be able to be in that environment and be respected and not be questioned. So what image best supports me What image best supports Wilma to create the optimal relationship with her daughter-in-law? I'm typing it into the now. What image best supports Wilma in her relationship with her daughter-in-law? What image best supports Wilma in her relationship with her daughter-in-law? Okay, it's 17 with a changing 4. If you'd please write that down, Wilma. 17 with a changing 4, and it becomes 2.
It becomes what?
2.
Okay.
Now I'm going to go open it up in the app. Well, I mean, on the Google. I'm going to go into my house so that I can look at you all while I read it. Okay. Uh-oh. Did I not send this? Oh, I'm sending it. Okay.
So did you do that on your iPad or your on the app?
I did. I just pushed the little button at the bottom. Tap, 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 tap,
Yeah.
tap, tap, tap. I have gotten so to a place with divination that there's never a question anymore in me of whether I'm doing it right? Or if I'm in the right space, or if am I contemplating right? Or did I not cut the right way? Or am I tapping too fast or too slow? Because what I've found is that what really creates the success with it is trusting the whole process all the way through, that no matter what happens, it's perfect. Because I do believe it's perfect, what do you think my relationship is with the feedback, no matter what the feedback is?
Perfect.
See? Yep. Whereas if I start thinking, oh no, I didn't cut the deck right, or oh, my dogs are barking, it's interfering with the process. No. My thoughts that there's an interference with the process is the only thing that's interfering with the process. It was hexagram 17, correct?
That's
Correct.
what you said.
So hexagram 17 is the hexagram for following. So just notice right away in asking a question about a relationship, and this is a relationship that traditionally is in an order. There's an order to relationships in our society, in our culture, in our world. I'll tell you real quick what the app says, and then I will tell you what the page that I normally read. One who would rule must first learn to serve. A following secured by force, cunning, or conspiracy must constantly be watched over one's shoulder. But a following born of a leadership schooled in what it means to follow and a careful adaptation to the needs of the time is a powerful force. Seek consistency in doing right. However, for even a joyful alliance, misfortune can come. The second page, in winter, thunder withdraws to sleep in deep waters. To follow is to adapt to the changing of the time, to move in the light, and to rest in the dark. No situation favors the contradiction of nature. Rest when you are tired, eat when you are hungry, follow the thunder into the lake. Now, what I just read spells out the basic archetypal energy. That's the core energy that this question and challenge in your life is coming from. It's about the relationship between leaders and followers. It's about the relationship between the mother and her children, the father and her children, a coach, the player, and on down the line, right? There is generally in a society a structuring of how relationships take place. And when those get reversed, in other words, when the father isn't getting respect, when the mother isn't getting respect, it throws the whole situation on its head. That's what it's speaking about there. And about the importance of, as a leader, if what you want to get from your daughter-in-law, are you also finding a way to give that? Are you living the rules that you would want others to follow? Now, here is the changing line number 4 is very specific advice. After I read this interpretation, again, I'm going to go to my favorite page, the Cafe Au Sol website, and read that with a little more detail. There will always be those who follow for personal gain, who attach themselves with flattery and subservience. They are encouraged when a leader becomes condescending to inferiors, and they can become satellites, as dependent on their leader as their leader is upon them. Only the leader intent on the right and essential can see through them and shake them off. What resonates from that last specific advice, Wilma? What came up for you?
Well, my thought, what it's speaking to me is to look inside instead of outside, and perhaps there's part, I don't even know how to word it, part of this situation is much more my responsibility than I'm allowing myself to admit that it is. I still think she's a bitch. I still think she's disrespectful. However, if I see that in her, then what am I looking at when I look in the mirror? So I see that I have a responsibility for my part of that relationship.
How many people does it take to transform a relationship?
One.
Yeah, right? And does somebody else have to change their behavior, their do, anything? Does somebody else have to change in order for me to get what I want?
No.
Is that always an easy pill to swallow?
No.
Right. It's like, if I'm committed to having a great relationship with my mom while she's dealing with her cancer treatment, then it doesn't matter how much my mom shows up as a controlling bitch.
Right.
It doesn't matter if she shares personal information with the rest of the world, crashes my car, and kills my dogs. What matters is, what am I committed to?
Exactly.
Right? Now, to nail that in a little bit deeper, the app tends to give more of a poetic reading. Why I love Cafe Soul is that they go more into depth. Here's the reading at a glance. Again, back to the basic archetypal energy. And it's speaking directly to what you just said, Wilma. You may need to take the initiative and show the way in order to get others to follow your lead. When doing anything, remember that actions speak louder than words. So recognize that you are setting an example. Joy above thunder, that's the two trigrams. Joy above thunder can be a message about stepping back to delegate. Inspire forward movement in those you lead. Don't make demands. That resonate?
Yep.
You may receive a promotion to lead others because you have integrity and are not a threat to superiors. At the same time, don't threaten your subordinates. This hexagram calls for joy in leading. Ignite the passion of others to tap their seeds of genius. Don't burst onto the scene with an agenda that may be threatening. Working on what has been spoiled in decay as the underlying cause shows that your transformation has been successful and you are recognized for what you have accomplished. Gradual development as the hidden influence indicates patience and care when approaching the object of your inquiry. Patience and care is of utmost importance, Wilma. What it just said, don't burst onto the scene with an agenda that may be threatening. Don't threaten your subordinates. Inspire forward motion by example rather than telling others what to do. So show up demonstrating how you want to be treated is one part of it. Yet the other part of that too, Wilma, is you've got to know, how yin and yang play to one another, right? You might want to do some cherishing in addition to demonstrating that you're willing to show respect to her. But as you know, it's cherishing her that'll get the return answer of respect, right? Now, finally, up to the changing line 4 again. Difficult beginnings. A flattering situation has trapped you. While it seemed perfectly okay to follow, You need to examine your motivation in following or another's motivation in seeking your company. Sincere actions are fruitful. Gratification brings illusion. Be true to yourself and look at the real foundation of this situation. Does that specific advice speak to it again?
Absolutely.
Now, just notice how much of it spoke in more of a symbolic, poetic way that just instantaneously translated on a beingness level versus how much of it was speaking to your reason and logic of what to do.
Wasn't even thinking of what to do. You know what I mean? As far as it was how to be.
It just is a beingness shifter. It's so profound. By bringing up the subjective energy of whatever I'm contemplating and phrasing it as a question, I then am activating the electromagnetic field of my heart, literally, to vibrate at a certain frequency. The frequency that corresponds to whatever challenge or question I'm bringing up. Then, by pulling the coins, it's as if I'm taking my beingness and putting it into a Xerox copier. And we get a printout of your beingness relative to that subjective question, that subjective energy. Then we take that printout of the beingness and we compare it to a 5,000-year-old text that is a record of that beingness told through the human story in 1,000 different ways. So then I get to look at what is, now I'm not now trapped in my own feedback loop of that beingness and my label for that beingness. I get to look at what did the ancients and other cultures and modern interpretations of those cultures, how did they see that energy? And when the hero of the story was trapped in that energy, how did they get out? Now I just get to do what the hero did in the story that I just consulted. How many of you have a little confusion from that last part of that I just said? How many of you did that resonate? You get it. Oh yeah, I see. I get to look at my story in a piece of paper and then go look and say who else has lived this story and what did they do when they were in it, right? So I love that experience of it just resonating. It's like I could get a technical definition answer of what to do, and it would never be as fulfilling as this answer that somehow appeals on a level of B, and it's like the equal puzzle piece that fits into my piece of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
The future of the situation. Now, Wilma, I'll send you, I did save your reading and I'll send it to you. There were actually 3 changing lines in your reading.
Okay.
That says that the situation that you are asking about is right now in a phase of changing, right? So we only take one of the changing lines for your specific advice, and in the email last week, I told you the instructions for which line to take for specific advice. However, what we would do is we would take all of those changing lines, the 3 changing lines, convert them. If it was a changing yang, we change it into a yin. If it was a changing yin, we change it into a yang. Then we'll look at the future of the situation as that new, evolved, or changed hexagram.
Gotcha.
The future of the situation was hexagram 2. All yielding lines, Wilma. And what that's saying is you're looking for respect, and it's saying you better just get in the habit of yielding. If what you want is to create a different relationship with her, then take the lead and demonstrate how to yield. You want to be able to go to the role of the male in that relationship. You want her to bring yin energy to you and to show you respect as if you are yang. And the reading is saying, hey, lady, you might want to try that yin on yourself and show up to her party wearing yin and see how that transforms your relationship.
Gotcha.
If you're committed to having a relationship with her, you will meet her in the energy that she requires you to meet her in.
Okay.
If you're committed to being respected, that may mean you don't get to have a relationship with her anymore.
Gotcha.
Make sense?
Total.
Is that something that you can do? Are you willing to engage that relationship and be able to put maybe a pyramid of protection around you and go in, and even if it's not how you would want the behavior to be, you can surrender because it's worth it to be able to be with your son and be with your daughter-in-law, even if she is the raging bitch while she's with you?
Yes, I can.
What do you think will happen as your resistance to her showing up in that yang energy and questioning you, if that resistance were to go away, how do you think that might start to change your relationship with her?
Perhaps if the resistance would go away, she would be, I think she would be, well, it has nothing to do with her. I would feel more respected.
Yeah. Yep. Because who would be respecting you?
I would be.
Yep. And who would be respecting your right to have an awesome relationship with your son and daughter-in-law?
I would be.
And who would be respecting your power to create that?
I would be.
There it is. So who do you really want respect from?
Myself.
And if you're giving yourself that respect, will it be easier or harder to go to yielding energy when you're with other people?
Easier.
There you go. No deficit there. And who knows? You show up in that way and model that, really what's really happening is I changed, right?
Right.
My perspective changes and therefore I have a different experience. But what we also know is that the motherfuckers also change out there too. I can't go wanting them to change. However, if I actually change, they will.
Right.
Right? More often than not.
Absolutely.
Now I'm curious, who else got something profound for themselves or a situation they're dealing with in their life through Wilma's reading just now? Who'd be willing to share? Who'd be willing to share where they could apply it in their life, or even a specific situation? Or Kay.
First of all, when Wilma was going through that, I was thinking of, like, she is the matriarch in the family, the one who traditionally should be respected. There's a should in there. Anyway, that was coming on real strong for me, how the family dynamics and yes, that, the mother respecting your mother and respecting your mother. Anyway, there was some emotion that was coming up around that for me. But it also tied into the archetype that I had last week of the emperor and the empress, which really affected me, in that the empress energy the emperor energy, objective truth is the most important thing to the emperor. To the empress, the relationship is the most important thing, and versus objective truth. And I've really contemplated that recently a lot, seeing how, and that's kind of the opposites coming together, and then creating a whole new relationship. I've definitely felt like the emperor and that objective truth is more important, so I would have confronted my daughter-in-law. You're not respecting me, You're respected, which gets me in trouble in relationships.
There you go. Right. It's similar too, Kay. Like sometimes we talk about it's task versus relationship, right?
Mhm.
So yin will be more relationship focused. Yang will be more task focused,
Mhm.
right? Yang wants respect. Yin wants cherished. Doesn't matter what your sex is. Doesn't matter what you got in your pants. You can be in a female body and predominantly want yang, predominantly want to be respected, right? You can
Mhm.
be in a masculine body and predominantly want to be cherished. However, they play with each other in a specific way. So for me and my mom in particular, I'm going to go just a little bit to round this out a little bit. It's challenging for mothers
Mhm.
because from a child's birth through about 12, 13 years old, the mom plays the dad in that relationship. The mom plays yang. The children, 12 and under, are to respect mom, absolutely, unequivocally. For a young man, though, that's becoming a man, they must learn to get it done themselves and how to be respected themselves. So if in their family household, mom stays in the position of the one who gets the respect, then that boy will start fighting mom for respect. Boy will say, but I'm becoming a man and I want respect. And mom will say, not giving it to you, because it's hard for mom to let go of that. I'm here to protect you and keep you safe, like usually the husband does, right? So what happens is that when a young man doesn't fully take their independence from their mom and get that respect from their mom, they often achieve a failure to launch, right? It makes it more difficult for them to create respectful relationships elsewhere in their life. They wind up with a domineering girlfriend or wife, when deep down what this man wants is to be respected. They just didn't learn how to get respect from a woman, because when it came time for mom to start respecting the young man instead of the young man respecting mom, it was hard for her to do it, right? So it's an important shift. And one thing to notice then is when you're dealing with your daughter-in-law, you're dealing with the energy of your son. And what would be more important, that she respects you or that you respect your son and model to her and to him? For him, it lets him know what it's like to be respected. For her, it shows her what respecting her husband looks like. Make sense?
Yep.
So, and that's again in a relationship where the man wants respect. Sometimes the man wants to be cherished. The woman goes and earns the money, and the man stays at home and, takes care of the family. Or however, it just comes down to, do you want to get laid or do you want to get paid? Yin wants to get paid and Yang wants to get laid. It's true. It's a little more of a, it's a little more irreverent way of looking at it, but that's how Pat Allen says it.
It
The world's
makes
leading.
sense. It makes very good sense when you say it that way.
Yep. Do you want to get laid or do you want to get paid? If you want to get paid, you are yin. If you want to get laid, you are yang, right? So, so keep that in mind. There's this way that it all flows in together. And you said it really well, Kay, in bringing up and reminding us that it's similar to the relationship between, what did you say?
Emperor and empress.
Yeah. And you said one is relationship and the other is
Objective truth.
objective truth, right? Where somebody in yang space is going to be right no matter what damage it does to a relationship. Somebody in yin space will be willing to be wrong in order to preserve a relationship, even if they're not really wrong. You know what I mean? They'll hold on to the relationship in hopes that later on down the road they can reach a better level of understanding.
And this is saying something about myself, but it's like I could never understand that. Why you would not stick up for your, that just shows you how strong, and that's why it affected me so much. I know.
Okay, we're similar, right? I have a really intriguing relationship with my yin energy. And I would think that in a relationship, I probably more want to be cherished. In my career and in my life, though, I want respect. And most of my life, I spent alone because I was more committed to being right than to being happy.
Mhm. Our young gets in the way of that. And when you said failure to launch, I got this strong feeling that when a child doesn't have that respect, he loses that sense of support.
Yeah.
Like,
Where a young man
just
can learn that respect
pride-
in the first
yeah.
place is his mom. It's huge. I'm going to recommend a book to everybody here who hasn't already read it. It's called Iron John.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, it might be worth pulling it out and taking a look again. Charlie, for sure you want to read Iron John.
Okay,
It's
cool.
going to blow your mind.
Nice.
It's going to blow your mind. It'll speak a lot to your relationship with your siblings and your mom, and also set you up and prime you to be able to create the types of relationships you want as a man moving forward in your life. And it does so, again, using a lot of the language that we use through divination. It's more looking at ancient myths and teaching stories and taking the poetic interpretations so that it can reach us more on a level of be than on a level of do. So there's really cool, like Aesop's or Brothers Grimm fairy tale that's used as the wraparound story to explain the story about what are the stages of becoming a man.
Okay, cool. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Iron John is a revelation. You should definitely, Charlie, the little I know you, for sure you'll have a lot of fun reading that.
Okay, nice. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Cool. So now,
I could use rereading it, but yeah.
yeah, I haven't read it in a couple years myself. It's
I'm
probably
really
worth
struggling.
taking out.
Hunter, this last conversation really speaks to what I'm seeing going on with my sons. And
Oh yeah.
So where I have to, you talk about working, a relationship only needs one to change. And my relationship with my wife, with Jan, I get irked because I watch her do what you're describing and all four of my sons in different degrees. Really not so much with the oldest, because she respects him in the way that you're talking about. She doesn't do that with the other three. And so they're struggling all the time.
Well, so your oldest son somehow managed to escape her grasp and
Right.
create a result that proved to her she didn't have to worry about him anymore.
Correct.
And therefore she respects him.
Correct.
Somehow the law got twisted on its head and it worked with him. But just like, we have a saying, seeing is believing, except what we know from this work is that you can't see it until you believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And so similarly, somehow son number one managed to create the results without getting the respect first. The other three aren't likely to work it out that way. They're going to feel that their mom trusts them and believes in them and respects them before they can give that gift to themselves and create the result. She wants them to create the result before she chooses to respect them. They can't create it until she lets them go.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's equal parts. Your children, at least two of your boys know the story of Iron John and know that they have the right and responsibility to take the key out from under their mother's pillow at any time.
Mm-hmm.
And they're choosing not to.
I could say more specifics. Now that I hear, that's great. And now you've triggered, I could get into the fine points of the differences and where they're at. But really the one that's having the most trouble is the one who didn't play the game.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's true. But the other two were having trouble, but they're starting to do, now you've encouraged me a lot, because the two that have played the game, one is really beginning to turn that corner and just take it for himself. And the other is having some struggles, but he's gonna be fine. You've just reassured me a lot.
Yeah, and so part of it is Jan being primed to let go more and more. And as she does, watch as miraculously they take more, right? So her being primed, though it's also a long life of her. I watched it through her whole game, Roger.
Mm-hmm.
I watched, and I know Sandra's game, and she's Sandra's player. So there's frankly a lot of codependency there, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
it doesn't seem to be debilitating, except who's paying the price for it. You know, your wife may not outwardly be paying as big of a price for it. It may not seem. Your boys are the ones that are going to pay the bigger price for it.
Yeah. So it frustrates me to watch, and not feel like there's anything I can actually do, and which I should have known better, because everything that comes from do something about it is useless.
Right. Well, and so one thing then, based on the same example, right? Like, except it's reverse because it's different energy with different people. But based on the same example, what will it serve you to model to Jan through your own behavior?
I mean, what I feel is I trust them, and I show that. I ask them what they're going to do next. I ask them for what that means to them, or what does that choice mean to you, or what are you looking for, rather than me telling them, I think it, when I was your age, this is what so that's what emotionally I feel is helpful, but I get frustrated because I don't see any immediate result from my doing that. I think it's
Well,
good.
right.
I still think it's
Right.
correct. I still think it's good that I do that. However, I don't really see anything happening.
For your sons to have an example of what it looks like and what it feels like to be a man owning his yang,
Mm-hmm.
you must demonstrate what?
Leadership.
So you've got to own your what?
Own my yang also.
Right. And especially in your relationship with Jan, which is something you guys have been working on for just about as long as I've known you, right?
Right.
And you've made a lot of progress there. You've done a lot to change that relationship. The other part of it, though, is that's modeling to your boys.
Mm-hmm.
To your boys, you want to show them what it looks like for you to cherish your wife and receive respect from her. To your wife, you want to show her what it looks like to give respect to the boys.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I feel like the second point is the one I did already see.
You've already shown her what it looks like to give respect to the boys.
Yeah, but I'm saying I'm a little frustrated because I do that and don't see anything change in her relationship with them. But
Oh, I get it. Okay, I see. Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, and there's a lot of do in there, right? In her too. She wants to do it for the other people and do this and blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, she's late to all of her own stuff all the time.
Right.
Still, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, it is. It may be worthwhile too, just to be like, you know what, Jan, I tell you what, last week's lesson was so cool. We read the I Ching hexagram 1 and 2, and then we read about the Emperor and the Empress. I think you're going to love this. Here's the reading we did if you want to take a look at it this week.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Absolutely. It's already, my talking it out already makes me see, it's like, even saying what I said to you, now I see, having said it, that it's not totally true, that there's no forward, there's no.
Well, there you go, right? There's the other thing.
I'm starting to see it. I just didn't, I was stuck in an earlier thought that I'm not, of frustration. Yep. Sometimes frustration, it's a weird thing I just notice about myself, which is that much as you would think not, there's this program here that likes frustration.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a moth flying with a flame. That's weird.
It's like my really program weird. I would think that it was easy for me to think.
That's weird. Sometimes I see that I choose frustration over success. That's bizarre.
Absolutely, because our body becomes addicted to the chemicals that correspond to frustration. Yeah. So I think, my program, or like, look, I'll be like, the universe has just given me this great relationship with somebody. Mm-hmm. They've thrown this person into my life so that I get to have this relationship with them. And I'm going to play it differently now. I'm going to be very aware, and I'm going to create the perfect 10 relationship with this person. Well, what actually is happening is that person will never be that perfect 10 relationship. And what my program wants is for me to not get it. My program wants to prove to me again that I will always be alone and I'm
Right.
never going to get it.
Right.
Right? My program is addicted to the feeling of I don't get what I want.
Wow. I mean, I've heard this before, but I'm feeling it as it applies to me in a new way.
Cool. We'll take that into the week, right?
Yeah.
So how many of you spent some time developing some type of a ritual set apart from the rest of your day or the rest of your week as a time to go inward for contemplation?
Honestly, not.
No, okay. So then just listen into what was established for everybody else, right, Roger? And this week get committed or don't, but if you get committed, it can be fast. If I say I'm going to take 5 minutes out to set up a space under my tree and go sit there 5 minutes and meditate for 5 minutes, and then find that 5 minutes again the next day and find that 5 minutes again the next day, soon I'll discover that I actually have 20 minutes, and then I'll discover I have an hour. Because as I give myself that 5 minutes and appreciate it, that time will appreciate, right? It will grow. But it all starts with just, even if I can only find 30 seconds, once I find that 30 seconds, it gets easier and easier to find the time. For everybody else, what did you experience? I don't know what you should or shouldn't experience. So I'm just curious. What did you experience? Starting to set yourself up with a ritual for contemplation and clarity in your life.
I have first thing when I wake up in the morning, I am writing down my goals for the day, 3 goals for the day, which I previously was in the ritual of doing and have let that kind of go by the wayside. I have reinstituted that ritual in my life, and it over even a week has made a huge difference.
That's awesome. I remember when I went over to my computer a little bit ago and I said, oh, I didn't send this. Okay, I'm going to send it right now. I met when I was on tour. At the end of my tour, I finished in Nashville. I didn't want to go home yet. So I was like, I'm going to Mississippi to hang out with my friend who directs an HGTV home improvement TV show there.
Oh, yeah.
I booked an Airbnb, and the guy who I booked the Airbnb with called me, and somehow in conversation, he brought up Tony Robbins. And I said, oh, Tony Robbins. And then it came out, and I'm like, well, I was trained by the same guy who trained Tony Robbins.
Right.
And he's like, are you kidding me? Listen, I know that you're not supposed to stay in that house in Laurel, Mississippi until Thursday, but can you meet me on Wednesday? I'll put you up in another house for free. I hung out with him all day Wednesday. I laid out some of the stuff that I've done with you guys over this course. And then he said, listen, I want you to facilitate these seminars for my community here. I want the people in my community to have what you have. I want to do this, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, all right, I have to go to India for a wedding. When I come back from India, we're going to get all this going and we're going to put dates on the calendar for your first seminar. Well, of course, he came back from India. He's super busy. He just got his real estate license. He bought a new house. He does his Airbnb stuff. He's got a custody battle. Nowhere on his map is, let's build this class for other people.
Right.
So I reached out to him earlier today and I said, I was thinking, I do believe that this guy is going to empower his community. I believe him, right? And yet, I also know that the further we get from the time that I met him, the less likely it is that he will engage.
Right.
So I sent him a text message earlier and I said, well, since you're going through all of this stuff, how would it serve for you to have a context where somebody is coaching you, empowering you through all of this? And he was like, oh my God, that would be the best. So I wrote out an email, and why this is pertinent, why this is relevant to what you just said. I was looking at, if I did nothing else with this guy except for provide a context of understanding, right? Being understanding to him and asking him questions that can guide him to the next step. If I did nothing but that, so love him and have him fill out a daily page with his big 3 his jam session, his goal to fail at. If I only had him do that 5 days a week for 90 days, he will shift his paradigm, have
Absolutely.
new tools for his entire life, and he'll never play his life the same way again. So I had typed that out into an email, and I was like, is that really enough? And then, as you guys heard, I sent it during this. I'm like, yeah, it totally is.
That's awesome.
Totally is.
That's
Yep.
awesome.
I told him $1,600 a month or a one-time payment of $3,500. He can save 25% by paying for the whole 90 days. And can you imagine having just me without anybody else doing the process as a coach for 90 days?
I don't know if I can imagine that or not.
On one hand, it'll be easier because you won't have to deal with the backlash from me dealing with other people's bullshit.
Right.
On the other hand, it can be a lot harder because whatever I want in my life, I'm going to be charging towards 100 miles per hour. And so when you talk to me for your coach calls, it's going to be like, oh my God. He's not saying much, but I feel so much intensity coming from him. Holy shit.
Yeah, no kidding. And that's all because you booked an Airbnb.
All because of an Airbnb. It's procession in action. It's totally procession. I trust that he's going to sign up for 90 days of coaching before the end of the day Wednesday. That we're going to have our first call and set his goals, and then he's going to start daily pages on Thursday. I'm going to follow through with him on daily pages. He's going to get to his breakthrough point around 5 weeks. That's when he'll be up against his terror barrier. I will have unraveled his early paradigm. He will then emerge into his new paradigm sometime during month 2, and then month 3, it'll be like those extra reps and leadership principles. Then in January, he will be so primed and ready to have presentations to start doing the first class in Mississippi.
Yeah. Sure.
That's awesome.
And I think that him doing this with me alone, I would possibly be able to let him be a coach for the very first game there, even though he technically hadn't played the game.
Gotcha.
That would be a win for somebody who's willing to take it on to such a degree.
That's a great example because I've been telling Charlie about the law of precession. Just keep moving.
Just stay in motion. So that'll be a great place for us to wrap up today. Let me remind you to go to theprofessionaloracle.weebly.com. The link is in one of the emails from last week. And just sign up for a 1-hour coaching session with me. Book it at whatever time works for you. And then you'll get instructions via email after you book that appointment. And it'll tell you what to do to prepare for the appointment. And it'll give you my phone number, and you'll just call me. And then for that 1-hour coaching, we will answer your specific questions, deal with specific challenges that haven't been addressed through the work. And my hope is that with each of you, I will be able to do a divination therapy session with you with the tarot cards. So we'll be able to do a personal reading for you. What's more important to me than doing the personal reading is making sure that you're set up to be able to do your own readings forevermore. What could be a part of setting you up so that you can do your readings forevermore is to give you an example of walking through a reading. That'll be paramount for you, Roger, as you haven't had a reading with me in person, and same with you, Charlie. So for sure with you too. Kay, Wilma, it may be that we don't spend as much time turning over cards in your 60 minutes. It may be that we get to dive in and look at some other things that are underneath the surface and answer some specific questions for you. So I'm happy to go whatever direction it's called for. So remember to schedule your appointment for this week. My biggest hope is that everybody can have their private session before next Monday's call. All right?
I set up an appointment with you for tomorrow. Did you get it? Okay.
I sure did. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Kay. That still works for you?
Yeah. I
Great.
just
I
didn't remember getting a confirmation. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
No, I apologize. Go ahead.
No,
You got it.
I say what I need to say.
I just, so your goal is for us to have had our private session before next Monday.
That's correct. So someday this week. Any weekday or this weekend. If you find that there's not a time that works in the scheduler, go ahead and shoot me a private message or a text and say, hey, look, Really, the best time I have available is Thursday at 5, but according to the scheduler, you're not available. Can you make that work, Hunter? And I'll give you a yes or a no, okay?
Let's see if you could do it earlier on Monday.
There's time slots already in the scheduler. If the time slot you want isn't available or none of those work for you, reach out to me and throw me some other ones and we'll make something work. The other thing is this week's assignment is really a lot more of the less. I may find some specific reading that I want to send you or something else. I may throw a monkey wrench in it. It won't be anything laborious or challenging. It's just that if something hits me that I see as an important aspect to seal this deal for you all, you may get that more in an assignment. However, what's of utmost importance to me this week is that you get more of an experience playing with the tools that you're going to use for divination. If you do not have something like prayer cards or a tarot deck, and that was a vehicle for a self-exploration that you enjoyed, then go and find a tarot deck. All right, you can go to a bookstore and look and find what imagery and what really speaks to you on that beingness level, right? You want to find images that just inspire you. That's what's most important in choosing your tarot deck, is that you connect with whatever frame they're using. You know, like they have like creatures of the forest tarot and dog tarot and cat tarot and fairy godmother tarot, and they have Thoth tarot, which is like really, really intense and dark and weird, you know? So there's all these different levels of intensity. Just pick whichever appeals to you, if that's something you want. Otherwise, for this week, I want you to spend at least 2 or 3 times where you set time out aside from the rest of your week that is time that is for you and your contemplative process. Utilize the tarot, the pendulum, and or the I Ching, whichever you want. Also, in particular, though, spend more time doing I Ching consultations where you sit down, frame a question, and get some practice in finding out what types of responses you get depending on the way that you frame your question, right? Notice that when we started working with Wilma earlier, she already had in her head a certain direction to go. Now, had we asked that question first, what if I confront my daughter-in-law? It may have spun her in a different direction, whereas she wouldn't have gotten the same feedback. She may have said, what if I confront my daughter-in-law? And we could have gotten the hexagram that says, danger, danger, look out, Roger, you're about to die, the world is going to end. And then it would be like, oh no, right? But we found a way of framing the question that left more room, right? And it was really, in a sense, a more powerful question. Because no matter what the correct action would be, it was going to speak to her on the being of what was really going to serve. It's not, hey, what if I confront her? What if I don't confront her? It's simply, hey, what image is going to help me see what's going to be the best course of action here, right? For this week, spend more time with the I Ching. Make sure that you get a chance to get at least 3 or 4 readings so that you're reading different hexagrams, and also spend time framing the question differently. At least once, ask a question 3 or 4 different ways. I'll tell you again that when I do it and I use the app, first I read what the app has to say about it every time. And then I compare it to the Café au Sol reading. And every once in a while, I still don't have enough information. I haven't hit that key point of poeticism yet, where it just is like, oh. Because most often, 99% of the time when I do an I Ching reading, I'm like, why do you have to know what I'm really asking so well? I can't pull one over on the I Ching, right? I'll give you, for instance, I might ask, well, I've literally had this happen. I was dealing with relationship trauma, and I was really dealing with programmed relationship trauma. And I kept on going back asking, is the relationship okay? Is the relationship okay? No matter what happened, I would still go back because I wasn't satisfied. And finally, I literally got this response from the I Ching. Literally, the changing line advice was, listen, Linda. Okay, it wasn't that literal. But it was like, listen, Linda, you are running around frantically right now looking for answers that you can't have. If you continue asking the oracle for answers, it will only lead to more confusion. You have to move forward applying what you know and get new feedback before you have an intelligent enough question to answer again. And I was like, how does it know that I'm repeat asking it over and over again, and that no matter what it says, I'm not going to listen anyway? But it did. You know what I mean? It is so profound, because often I don't know what my real question is, and I might be saying one question. Well, it's not giving me a readout of what question I'm speaking with my words. It's giving me a readout of my subjective energy. So often it'll help me become even more clear on what the real question was that I was asking that I didn't know. That'll make more sense when you have it happen to you.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense to me. That attacks my skepticism and drains some of it away, because that's what I think is really happening a lot of times.
Yep, it's going to appeal to a deeper place, a bigger place, and the more I can get into that subjective energy of whatever is haunting me, challenge me, whatever, the more I will be able to receive the response as it comes from the I Ching.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another reason why the I Ching won't work if I'm in busy do-do space. If I do not take time out to calm my mind down and to become reflective, I will hear the answer on an intellect, reason, and logic level. Well, it's not telling me reason and logic. I have to get into a more creative beingness. I literally have to go to a different brainwave pattern in order to be able to feel the answer that's coming from the I Ching. I'm at the point now where often I sit down, put myself into the space, ask the question, and I don't have to get the I Ching consultation anymore. Because my ritual is so strong, by the time I've gotten clear on my question, I can feel the subjective energy, and I already know what I Ching hexagram I would get if I happen to proceed. I get my answer before I even ask the question. That's a profound place to land. So this week, one more time summarizing it, set time out, make sure that you're continuing to build your own ritual with contemplation. Whether you use any of these tools or not, whether you use the pendulum, blah, blah, blah. My suggestion though is that you use them as much as you can, use whichever tools you like, you want to explore further, and have your own divination session, your own little ritual 2 or 3 times this week. Whether you use the I Ching in that specific ritual, I want you to get some more exposure with the I Ching and practice asking it questions. Continue playing with the pendulum. Get a tarot deck if that's something that speaks to you. And make sure you schedule your one-on-one call with me this week. Like I say, in that one-on-one call, I'll answer your specific questions or deal with challenges you've had through the process, to things that are still a little bit elusive. And then hopefully we'll have some time to do a one-on-one divination therapy session with one another during that time as well. Questions, comments for the good of the cause?
Awesome.
That's great.
Cool.
It's challenging. Which
Thank
is great.
you for that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. It is my pleasure. If I don't send you the picture in the text, remind me. I'll do my best to put it in the email, actually, to everybody with the assignment and review for this week when I send out this video tomorrow. I do want to say one other thing, and that is do keep considering who in your life this would support, for them to get deeper, to slow down their game, to get out of their do space, hitting their head against the wall, wondering, why do I keep getting the same results? Well, because you're in do space. You get different results when you shift to the level of be. I had told you in that email that I was going to give anybody the tuition incentive of $147 for the class through the weekend, and then give them an additional reading and you a reading. So any referrals that you send to me to take this very class starting August 14th, I'm going to give you an additional free reading as a thank you for sending me referrals. But I told you I would only give them an additional reading if they signed up by this morning. I'm going to extend that until Wednesday. So anybody that signs up by the last day of July, by Wednesday evening, you'll get an additional reading for them. They can sign up for $147, and they'll get 2 one-hour coaching sessions from me as a part of their package instead of 1. So
Well, wait,
I'm attempting.
147 is the cost to them of the class?
That's it. Yep, it's $297 really.
Right.
It's 147 right now, just until the end of the month,
Oh, wow.
because I have a goal that I want to hit by the end of the day Wednesday. So I'm willing to create a bigger win for other people, throw them an extra bone so that I can hit my goal by the end of the day Wednesday too, with how many people I've enrolled. So excellent. All kinds of perks thrown around. You can get extra free readings with me by sending me referrals, and they get half off the tuition plus an additional one-on-one coaching session with me if they register by the end of the day Wednesday.
And how do
Okay.
how do they do that most easily? Where's your link for that?
They can simply go to, I'll send it in the email again this week, but you can Venmo, PayPal, or Zelle me the money. The easiest way usually for people is to go to paypal.me/Hunter Wade Music. I'll put that all in the email tomorrow. You can always just have them call me or text me, or you can call me or text me too, and I can send them a link directly. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited to be able to do this class again.
It's been good.
I'm glad you guys are getting value out of it. It's been really reaffirming to me. I haven't done an online curriculum in several months, and I haven't taught an in-person class since last December. In fact, I messaged Dak about it earlier today. I was like, dude, I'm jonesing. I'm totally jonesing to be in the seminar room with the people sharing the stuff, you know? So I miss it. I think I want to put an upfront together for St. Louis again, but part of me doesn't want to continue to lean into St. Louis. Does that make sense? Like, so.
Yeah.
One more though, one more.
Well, I know, right? I mean, to say I am building and growing without needing DAC or St. Louis to grow,
Per
right?
se. You don't,
That's
right, you
important.
yeah.
But that doesn't need to mean that I can't go and serve in St. Louis if it serves to go to St. Louis and serve.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Well, that's the only healthy relationship to it. I mean, that's got
all things in moderation.
Yeah.
It's not all just yin or yang. Sometimes yang is becoming yin, and sometimes yin is becoming yang. It's not just ones and zeros. It's all for combination.
Did you come up with that on your own, or did somebody teach you that?
What?
That was a joke.
Oh. All right. I love you guys. I really like over the moon. So excited about the value you are all creating for yourselves through this process. It is empowering to me. I'm very grateful for all of you. So I look forward to connecting with you tomorrow around, what is it, noon, Kay? Is that what time you spoke for?
Let me see. I think it's it's my time. It's noon your time, 1 my time.
Okay. Excelente.
Good night, everyone.
Everybody. Good night, everyone. We'll talk to you all soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Winnie says bye.
You know, Hunter, wait.
Oh, yeah, Roger.
What Kate just said, you might, that sounds backwards. It has to be backwards. You're in Eastern time, right?
Yeah, no, we're both in Eastern. I knew what she meant.
Okay. Cool.
Thanks, boss.
Sure.
Good looking out. Good looking out, Roger. Love you, bro.
Good. Okay.
Bye.
Where is that?